Well, in Season 16 of Master Duel, we are opting to stick with FLOOWANDEREEZE, and it's been a good choice so far. Unfortunately, map will be limited to 1 tomorrow, so I'm not sure how resilient the deck will remain, but maybe subscribe and check out my future videos to find out. The change from the Duelist Cup list that I played a few weeks ago is that instead of 2 Book of Moon, I'm opting to play 2 Fossil Dyna, just trying to change it up, try a different choice, and I think that it's kind of still up in the air on which one's better. Maybe it's just down to personal preference. So far though, you can see here the grind through gold and platinum has been fairly easy. We had a 90% win rate, losing only 2 matches in our past 20, winning 18. And the matches we did lose, sometimes you go second and you just brick super hard and you can't just play through whatever the opponent puts up. So I couldn't play through the Promenade and the Herald of Orange Light against this Madolche player going second. And against 2 Dragon here, he was playing Branded with the Ido lock, and we aren't playing the Book of Moons unfortunately, so we had no out to the Ido and they just OTK'd us during the 3rd turn. However, if you watched my videos before, you know that FLOOWANDEREEZE can play through a lot of interruptions, big boards that the opponent might put up, and floodgates potentially, and still come out on top, winning a lot of matches you think that you would normally lose. So again, if you're interested in that, stay tuned. We'll cover some matches and I'll break down my thought process and how I play the deck, and check out my previous videos as well. The last thing I'll address is, in previous seasons, I haven't really bothered to grind super hard because I always wanted to be reset lower to grind for more gems in the lower ranks. However, this time around, we're taking the challenge and we're taking it early on. In Season 16, there's still a lot of good players early on in the beginning of April that are still in the Platinum and Diamond ranks, so these aren't easy matches by any means. And if you're interested in seeing how we get high win streaks and high win percentages, let's get into some of these matches now and you can check it out. Alright, in this matchup, we are going second against Spright, so pretty meta deck, probably the best deck right now in the format, up there with Branded Ishizu. Until Trailment comes out on April the 10th, I believe. Regardless though, you may wonder why I don't bother playing hand traps, and it's because of this deck right here. Spright is just too powerful. It will easily play through interruptions. You need like multiple very strong interruptions in order to really slow them down, and even if you do that, it might not even stop them. They may still end on a pretty good board. It depends what they have in their hand, but if you don't have any hand traps, they will usually go full extension just because Gigantic gets them into full combo anyways. So we actually opt to play board breakers. Now, looking at our opening hand, it was pretty good because we had the Extravagance and the evenly matched, and I believe we drew into the second M-pin there, if I'm correct. Yeah, we drew M-pin for turn, so we got both the M-pins. This wasn't a bad situation because Extravagance, if it resolved, draws us 2. We either hope for an evenly matched or some other spell to try to bait out the carrot. If they don't use the carrot, we are in trouble because the red would negate the Robina and we would kind of be stuck in the water. Plus they have 3 cards in hand and Spright is known for playing a lot of hand traps, so we could get in trouble that way as well. So this is a pretty difficult board to break through. Just because we have some cards doesn't mean it's easy to overcome by any means. The opponent actually opts to burn their carrot negate on the Extravagance and then sack the red for the cost and then use Elf to bring back red right away. So carrot is used, but they have the red monster negate, they have the IP interruption, which can likely tribute one of these 2 things and bring out Unicorn, discard, and spin a card back. And then they also, like I said, have the cards in their hand, which might have like an Effect Veiler or Ash Blossom. But we're actually going to go straight to battle phase, use the evenly matched here. They opt to keep the Elf, so that outs 2 interruptions, the IP and the red. Now we're going to activate Unexplored Winds here. And because our Extravagance was negated, we're actually able to use the draw effect. So we're going to put back both the M-pins and draw 2. Now you might think that's very risky, right? Because why don't I just summon the Robina, search with Robina, and then use the Unexplored Winds with the Robina to tribute off the Elf? Well, the reason is because if they did have a hand trap, like an Ash Blossom or an Effect Veiler, I would summon the Robina, it would get negated, and then I wouldn't be able to summon again. So this Unexplored Winds and the 2 M-pins in my hands would be bricks. So why not use this now? Put back the M-pins. I can always search one out again with the Eaglin if the Robina resolves, but I actually draw into a called by, which is pretty useful. The reason that you want to put back and draw is because there's a lot that you could potentially draw into, right? You could draw into any of the advents for extensions or additional dodges of like Effect Veiler. You can draw into called by like you see here. I could have drawn into Duality, which could have helped me dig further. I could have drew into Map, which would have enabled an extra starter, right? I would have played Map, revealed Robina, banished another bird, then I would have another bird in rotation. So it's definitely worth doing the draw, but thankfully our Robina doesn't get negated, and now at this point it's pretty much GG's because we're going to be able to set up our board out the Elf, get the M-pin in rotation, and we can't use Prosperity this turn because we used Unexplored Winds to draw, but we are able to set up a Call by the Grave and in Dreaming Town. Now, I misclicked here. I activated Dreaming Town and then right-clicked, so I didn't actually activate my Called By. Obviously, I'd want to activate Called By on like blue to banish it, so he couldn't use the blue this turn. But yeah, I kind of messed up there. But nonetheless, we are going to use the Dreaming Town and get an Apex on board. They normal summon a second Hyperia, and I'm just like, to use their normal summon right away, they must be hurting for cards, so we use the Apex to negate it and destroy. They have nothing on board, which means they can't special summon additional Spright cards, and they scoop it up right after that. Alright, in this next match, we are going second once again. Our hand is pretty good, but we are missing an evenly matched. Thankfully, though, the opponent is on Branded, and Branded usually doesn't put up a lot of negates, but they do put up very powerful interruptions. So with that in mind, our hand is actually acceptable to maybe play through the board that the opponent might set up. Traditionally, at least right now in Master Duel, Branded is ending off of the Mirror Jade, banishing their own card. Albion set Branded in red from deck, and then during their turn, they branded in red the card that they dumped with the Branded Fusion, which in this case was the Despian Tragedy. They bring that back to hand. They use the Ad Libitum they brought to the hand from the Tragedy during their turn, the Tragedy that they bring back during our turn off of the Branded in red, and the Mirror Jade all get banished. They bring out Guardian Chimera, pop one card on the field, draw two, and then Ad Libitum triggers to bring back the Mirror Jade, which makes it banish a card from the field live again. So that's what we have to play through. They also have an additional set card, which we have to worry about, likely an Imperm, because Branded does play Imperm, at least the 40 card version, and then a potential hand trap and an Ash Blossom. So you're going to see our approach here. We're going to start with the Duality, because we'd rather try to fish out the negate with this, which we do, thankfully, rather than having our Terraform negated, because map is definitely one of the key pieces. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to map. I've used up the Ash, so my only hope is that this is not an Imperm, and the Branded in red will resolve. The Guardian Chimera will pop a card. Even if he draws another Ash, it won't matter because he's ready to use one this turn, and we can hopefully still play with normal summon Robina through our turn. We already have a Toucan in hand, so if this map resolves though, we're going to be in business, and you're going to see the unique combo that we pull off. So the opponent actually opts to, activate Branded in red upon activation of map. They bring Tragedy back to hand. They use only Mirror Jade and Ad Libitum to bring out Dragostapelia. So this does make sense too. I think the Guardian Chimera play was definitely the right play, but again, we know what we have in our hand, the opponent doesn't, right? So the Dragostapelia and bringing back Mirror Jade is a better longer term interruption, because the Dragostapelia will perma monster negate, and then the Mirror Jade will also banish a card on our field. So no matter what monsters we play, we're in big trouble here, right? Because they have two big interruptions to stop us from extending. They don't know we have Dark Ruler, obviously, so the Dark Ruler just went from 0 to 100 in terms of value real quick. So now they can still dump a card for cost of Mirror Jade, so they can dump an Albion and set another Branded card from their deck or bring it to hand. But they can't place a counter, because part of the placing the counter and negating the effect is part of Dragostapelia's effect, which is now negated. So we just turned off their monster board, which is really good. The only thing we have to worry about, like I said, is this being an Imperm. But because they let map resolve, even if this was an Imperm, we have plays through the Imperm now. So off map, I'm actually going to banish the Empin, and there's a good reason for this, right? So summon Robina, search Eaglin, right? Summon Toucan to target the Empin that we banished with map, bring that back. This allows me to play through a potential Imperm, right? So I activate Empin now, and then Chainlink to Robina. They do indeed have an Imperm, so we had to play through Branded in red, Ash Blossom, the Branded in red bringing back a Mirror Jade and a Dragostapelia. So 4 potential interruptions is what we had to play through with our hand. The Dark Ruler went 2 for 1 in terms of negates, so that was really strong. And then we were able to play through Ash by baiting it out with the Duality, and then playing through the Imperm here as well now. Unfortunately, you know, our Empin does get negated, but you're going to think, okay, well, you can just summon another Empin, right? Not necessarily, because we have to worry about this Mirror Jade. If this Mirror Jade goes to the graveyard, it's going to trigger and destroy all of our monsters, right? And they just dumped an Albion, so they're going to be able to follow up with the Albion at the end of the turn to bring another Branded spell or trap to their field or hand. So we actually search for Ryza here, and we're going to opt to tribute both the monsters, not just the one, because we want to banish the Eaglin to chain block later. And the Ryza is actually going to target the Mirror Jade and the Albion that they just dumped, so not the one that was dumped last turn. And this is going to prevent the Mirror Jade from triggering in the graveyard, and the Albion from searching during their turn. So basically, Ryza was the out to Mirror Jade. And then we're not going to bounce the Mirror Jade back, the Ryza back to hand. We're going to leave it on field to beat over the Dragostapelia. So we've cleared the opponent's board. Unfortunately, you know, our M-Pin did get negated, so we didn't get the Search Trap, but we have Magnificent Map for their normal summon, and we know one of their cards in hand is Tragedy. So overall resource management, we're not out of it yet, unless they maybe like top deck Branded Fusion or something. But again, they're going to have to usually commit their normal summon. If they normal summon Aluber or that Tragedy and try to Suicide to get the Tragedy back engraved, to banish to get the Branded Fusion back, we can extend through that just a little bit. We set the second Dark Ruler as a bluff, but I don't think it's going to be fooling anybody. So the opponent is now going to normal summon Tragedy, and then that's going to trigger Map. So we normal summon Robina, chain block with the Eaglin, search for Stree, and we're actually going to be able to go more or less full combo here. The opponent actually has Droll and Lockbird, so that was a really powerful card against Floowandereeze. Thank goodness that we have all of our birds in rotation, so we're not going to be able to search for like an Apex to negate whatever play the opponent wants to do, but thankfully we are able to set up the M-Pin Floodgate to prevent special summon monsters from activating their effects. So we're actually going to have to just not summon the Eaglin because we can't bring anything else to our hand, and just off of the banish of M-Pin from Stree, use the Toucan to bring the banished M-Pin back to hand. And of course we can't search off M-Pin either, but we just need to get it on field, right? We're going to bring back the Robina, and hopefully we can survive this turn so that the opponent doesn't OTK us, and then we can go full combo next turn, because they only have one card left in their hand. They're going to now do exactly what we said, is in banishing the Tragedy, getting the Branded Fusion back, dumping 2 materials, and I think they realized they can't use Tragedy again because you can only use one effect of it, so they use the effect to banish and get the Branded Fusion back. So they have no further extension off this. Even if they brought out Lubellion in defense mode, they bring it out in attack and realize that they messed up. But even if they brought it out in defense mode, discard their only card in hand, go into Mirror Jade in defense, Mirror Jade dumps Albion, and then banishes M-Pin, I guess. But we have the full combo to bring it back. You know, the Albion can set another Branded in red if they play more than one, or a Branded Banishment or something. But it would be really hard for the opponent to break through our board at this point. And we do have a second Dark Ruler as well, right? So, yeah, the opponent was in a really tough spot, because whatever they bring out with Branded in red, if it wasn't a Guardian Chimera, we would just negate it. And even if it was a Guardian Chimera, we would be able to play through it anyways, because we know they have nothing in hand and no further interruptions. So the game was pretty much over regardless, but that was an interesting match, and how we overcame Branded going second. Alright, in this matchup, I just wanted to showcase the power of Fossil Dyna. It can definitely be an FTK against some decks, but I think I do prefer the utility of Book of Moon as a more defensive option, just as a personal preference. However, this card, like I said, can really shut down a lot of decks, and you're going to see that here. Because basically, uninterrupted, we're able to get Map, and we have Robina banishing the Toucan, and then off Map we banish Eaglin, which means off Robina we're going to be able to search Street, which gives us all 4 birds into rotation. So we're basically going to end on M-Pin and Fossil Dyna, which is basically like M-Pin and Barrier Statue. It's even better actually, right? Because they can't special summon anything, let alone wind monsters. So it's a pretty good lock, and it is different than, you know, when Barrier Statue was legal, because there's a lot more spell and trap removal in the meta nowadays than there was before. So it's not an FTK against every deck, but it does stop a lot. If you do have this setup, if you dig for this card with a pot and you already have your engine going, you can see here this person has Exosister. They have no way to out the Fossil Dyna. They know when they normal summon, we're going to trigger Map, and we also have the trap set. So there's absolutely nothing they can do to play through this, and they just scoop right away.